You can literally have part of your being that is watching the impulses come in through your senses, and if you get some space from that and see, this is one of the things, is to not doubt yourself. See, that's how you foster the sixth sense, or the intuition, the inner voice, the inner guide, your own link to the source, is just don't doubt it when you hear it. And then also you have to learn to move with it and let it come in. And that's part of the past life stuff, too, and it kind of also starts forming in the imagination. Like, you'll start... But that's where memory, it's like your imagination reverse projects the memory, I guess. And that's how it comes back in. You remember it through imagination. And you just got to realize that has its own validity. Don't just doubt yourself in the sense, oh, that's just my imagination. No, well, that is your imagination. Don't doubt it. That's a realm unto itself, and that's how some of the soul recollects the past life memories.
So, I mean, how far back do you think that we can go? I mean, there are, of course, numerous ideas about, people who have been, of course, to places like Atlantis and so forth and all of this, but, I mean, it kind of reminds me a bit about even remote viewing in that sense. I mean, do you think that we can kind of get information out of this, of our, more mysterious and hidden past of previous civilizations and so forth?
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like there are certain eras of history that I have an intuitive feel for now that is not just based on knowledge or information. I mean, that's kind of a nice thing to do, is to read a lot of history or learn a lot about history, but then going through your own past lives, you start also having a resonance for certain eras, and then when you recover that part of yourself, you have an aesthetic sense of what it was like to be there, because you have literally reabsorbed that experience.
So this is a real could be a real truth archive in that sense, to actually find out, what has been happening in history, because a lot of it is a bit cloudy.
Oh yeah, we just have to loosen up our ideas of what could be occurring here,
Yeah.
And one, we can work off of that. What you said, how far back can you go? Well, I think you can go right back. I view kind of it like souls orbit the earth, essentially, and dive down in, come back out, dive down in, come back out, dive down in, come back out, and you kind of spin through and gain experience, gain knowledge, maybe gain momentum, just learn the lessons of what it's like to be in the energy field of the earth,
Yeah.
But I think that's all pretty local, you could probably cruise out around the moon and stuff, and but I also think that you can come into this whole solar system even before that, or working backwards, that you can remember all your past lives, remember the whole of who you are on the lessons you're learning here, but also even get back to, for some people anyway, back to before you even came to this planet in the first place.
Yeah. Huh.
And back to maybe the sense that I have a couple friends where we chat about the fact that we both resonate with Pleiades, the area of Pleiades. And that's where I've kind of referred to that occasionally in my writings and stuff. And I even said a little technique that somebody wrote me that they did it, and it sent chills up their spine, to just say, I'm from Pleiades. And see how it feels, just to even allow such ideas, But I think that it makes total sense that it could work like that, It's a kind of combining the inner spirituality and the outer cosmos into just, it all works together. There is no distance. They are one and the same.
There's this myth in the Mayan legend about the underworld, where the souls are born and where they kind of end up, where after the body, I guess, has stopped functioning. And the place was called Xibalba, and it kind of sounds like Shambhala to me. I mean, do you think that they're talking about the same place here?
Well, they're probably all referring to places just maybe on a different vibratory level,
Yeah.
And just like I've talked about this with Shab, who's coming back very soon to do an awesome show about Ching Hai, Supreme Master Ching Hai, the Master from the East, and we'll be catching that. But yeah, we were talking about just how religions will even create their own realm on the astral plane, like Christians. We'll have a Christian heaven to go to, essentially, because with their own collective belief and mindset and whatnot, they've been able to, in years and years and years, because really the astral realm works that way through like intention or focus, or you can manifest things quite easily, even more easily than in a denser 3D physical world. Things are in the imaginary realm or in the realm of vision. The vision is another way to put that. There's many native traditions. I read some of the Castaneda books, Don Juan, and some of those trips and the teachings he talked about vision quests. There's a shaman-like aspect to some of the way I think I see this too, that we recover parts of our soul. We go back and recover pieces of ourselves, bit by bit, and so if you can even look at it in the sense of, for a moment, remove the usual concrete idea of past lives, and then let's go back to that idea of spiraling backwards. And so I got to where we were spiraling through our immediate past, back 5 years, back 10 years, back 20 years, even to then all this really dense stuff from childhood. And one of the tricky parts of that is, that's the kind of thing that it's hard to express outer. You can't find a much outer validation for. That's like your own personal burden in a sense, and you have to almost learn to self-validate or face up to it and just release it. That's why sometimes just crying, just bawling your eyes out, or just even shouting, expressing very intense emotion, even anger, or even, I'm a big believer that getting it out is the best thing you can do. There's no holding it back anymore. And the faster you can get that stuff out, the farther you'll go, and the better you'll feel in the short amount of time. You really have to release that stuff.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, it seems to be to me as I don't know if this is the case, but the general idea I got is that in regards to a lot of New Age philosophy, I guess it's about suppressing, in that sense, the anger. I might be wrong there. I don't know, but as you say, this feels like it's very bad to clog it up, so to speak.
Yeah, I think we have to be real careful not to create another, the New Age sometimes can almost get a little dogmatic in its own right. And
sure, yeah. Maybe
judge against real feeling and emotion intensity sometimes, but they wouldn't judge against that in Zen. And I'm interested in, what is in the purity of just Tao as it stands, and in intense emotion. That's another aspect of Tantra. I mentioned it before, and I basically learned it from Osho, or reading through Osho, and just kind of some of Shab demonstration, and of course I've read many other books, blah blah blah. But one of the key things is just to say yes, or to accept, and to not judge against it. See, if we have an intense feeling like anger, maybe somewhere along the while when you were a kid, someone came up and smacked you, and you were really angry, but you were like more sad and scared, so you kind of swallowed it down or something.
Yeah.
And so now you're, however old, like 30 years old, on the path, and you're working your way backwards, and you come across that. Okay, well, in one sense, it feels a little ridiculous, maybe. You feel like, well, I'm 30 years old now. How could I have to, go back to something that happened when I was 4?
Yeah, sure.
And re-feel that from that kid's perspective, with all the innocence and youth, the pure innocence in that real open hurt, like humanity betrayed you in a sense, like you trusted absolutely, and maybe early on. Anyone's bound to have those first betrayals where someone causes you harm and you start realizing that the world's kind of a wild and scary place, and you start building up those barriers, those borders, those protections.
Yeah.
And so we have to get all the way down. See, that's the first really dense veil which blocks us from seeing past life, is our own basic hurt and pain from this life that we haven't resolved. That takes all of our attention and all our efforts, so we never can get past that usually.
How about have you studied or read something from Edgar Casey? He seems to have quite an interesting, way or method to kind of get into these altered states. Basically, it's called, the sleeping prophet, I guess. But have you encountered this kind of technique that he uses?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I've read about him, and I've read some of his. I mean, I guess there's just some mountains of material from what he did, too.
Yeah,
so
sure.
You could never, unless you were really devoted to it, I guess you couldn't say that you knew it inside and out, because I know myself, in any corner of my work, there might be a different character I'm slipping in there, so you never know. In someone's body of work, I've pretty much let go of drawing too many conclusions, and that's been a really good thing in my life. Just leave things a little amorphous, and that's not a problem,
No, sure, no. I totally agree. Yeah.
But I don't know how exactly. I hear that he goes into some kind of trance or something, and then I don't know if it's his higher self or his higher self in communication with guides and entities, or also just sometimes other entities, But I don't know. I don't doubt that he could definitely pull up some good stuff, or maybe like what we were saying. I know he has some of that ancient civilization stuff, where he's got some things he talked about, Atlantis, or ancient civilizations, which I consider that valid. It's valid as anything else.
Sure.
That that's a human report on something. I think that what we get internally like that is part of the collective memory of the human experience. There have been times in my own meditation, just sitting in a chair. I wrote a tune about it, actually, called The Process. And I was just sitting in a chair, and that's when I started getting into the idea of tuning into the spirit of Earth directly, or the mind of the sun directly. And I felt this was like when I was starting to really connect with the sun, and I started seeing just time on Earth in a much longer perspective, not even thousands of years, but, just the ebb and flow and the rise and fall of civilizations, and how they do kind of eat one another up, or they just kind of it almost seemed like that, just like you see those time-lapse maps of history of where empires kind of ebb and flow. Kind of saw that as if from on the moon, looking at the Earth and just having an overview, and just kind of watching how there's these really big forces that move the waves of humanity, and for us to have that ego, our very personal view of things, is just kind of. You still with me, Henry?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Jeez, I heard a little weird voice.